I immediately took a better look and he was clearly choking, like seriously choking. No sound was coming out. I'm sure you all know that if someone is semi-choking but sound is still coming out, they aren't in as much danger as if there is no sound coming out at all.
Everyone in the service industry has a story, crazy customers, wild orders, and WTF moments. Do you want to start a tab? The podcast here to bring you those tales from behind the bar. My name's Carl, and I think I'm approaching 14 years bartending.
My name's Riley, and my stats remain at like 2 years, I think.
They're not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
But what we like to do on this lovely little podcast is read stories off the internet about the hospitality industry through the eyes of the guest or an employee, talk about it, discuss it, should have been handled differently, how it was handled. I think I just repeated myself. Yep. And rate that story 1 through 5, 1 being your average story, 5 being a very unique situation that you probably will never see or hear about ever again. So on that note, we are adults who like to drink. And it is 11 o'clock in the morning, so I do have to go to work in a couple hours. But I need to work on a couple of hot drinks for this Friday night, and we're taste testing one of those right now. It's a Tom and Jerry-ish cocktail. I didn't have like allspice and clove and everything that you're supposed to put in the batter, so I just put allspice dram.
Which, I mean,
same fucking thing.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of the overproof plantation rum with Hennessy.
Oh. I saw rye whiskey up there and I was like, oh, that's probably got rye in it. Mm-mm. I'm going to hate this.
It's pretty tasty. She does not drink eggnog. She hates eggs. And
that's a lie. It's so weird. I love a flip, but I don't like eggnog. And I don't generally like hot drinks.
I think this would be better with milk. But I'm not allowed to use the milk that we have in the refrigerator right now.
Would you make it with water?
Yeah. It's supposed to be either hot water or milk.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would probably be better with milk, but that would make it taste more eggnog-y, and I would absolutely not like that. I mean, like in theory, I like it.
Right.
But in execution, it just isn't for me.
Right.
And I'm kind of on a tolerance break right now, so I'm drinking an NA Golden Light.
Sweet.
Beer from Brevis Brewing Co.
And how is that?
Malty.
Is it better than the Athletic Golden Hour one?
I don't remember. Because it's been a minute since I've drank one of the Athletics. Yeah. So I'll have to try it.
Last time I drank one of those, I was pretty already drunk at the doghouse. And someone was like, I don't want to drink anymore. The guy goes, here, just drink this. I'm like, oh, it's a great idea.
Right. I want to drink something that tastes like a drink, but doesn't actually have alcohol in it.
But do you want to go first?
I do. Carl, have you ever been certified in first aid and CPR?
I have. How young can you be certified in that stuff?
I think it's like 12. No, I was 12 the first time I got certified.
I took a babysitting class. Yeah. I think I had to do that.
You took the babysitting class too?
Yeah.
I took that.
At the Y?
Yeah. Well, not the Y, but through the American Red Cross and the Y. Yeah. All right. So this is from the Tales from Your Server subreddit by Trifak3. And it was posted 3 hours ago.
3 hours ago.
Yeah. So it's called I Helped Save a Man's Life Yesterday.
Okay.
It was a pretty typical steady Monday, and I'm running around doing my job as I passed by an older man that is somewhat slumped over. I immediately took a better look, and he was clearly choking, like seriously choking. No sound was coming out. I'm sure you all know that if someone is semi-choking but sound is still coming out, they aren't in as much danger as if there is no sound coming out at all. His airway was totally blocked. Another customer hopped up and tried giving him the Heimlich maneuver. I kept saying we needed to get him on the floor. I was trained in CPR and first aid, but it was many years ago, so I didn't realize that certain things had changed. For example, you're not supposed to do an airway sweep anymore or mouth to mouth because it can push what they're choking on down further. I did attempt an airway sweep, but his mouth was pretty clenched, so I really wasn't even able to get his mouth open very far. One of my customers happened to be a cardiac nurse, and she hopped up and came over. She immediately said exactly what I said. We needed to get him on the floor. About 4 of us lifted him to the floor, and she instructed one of us to do chest compressions. Obviously, now we are listening to her because cardiac nurse is clearly better than better trained than any of us were in the situation. I didn't think it was best for me to do the compressions because I didn't think I was strong enough. So I told my boss's son, who is in his early 30s and quite fit, to start them. I counted while he did compressions, and I yelled to one of the other waitresses to call an ambulance now. My boss's son and the cardiac nurse took turns giving compressions, and I counted along and frequently checked his pulse. He was blue in the face and had no pulse. As they continued to do compressions, he would go from blue to having some color, and he went from having no pulse to a very faint one. He slipped in and out and of that as we continued to try to help him stay alive until the ambulance arrived. Finally, when the paramedics came in, we all moved out of the way to let them do what they do best. They had a tool that they used to reach down his throat and remove the item blocking his airway. The piece of steak that was caught in the man's throat was about 2 to 3 inches long and about an inch wide. I can't imagine why anybody would eat a piece of steak that big. No wonder he was choking. His wife said he does it all the time, and I was thinking maybe it's time for you to start cutting your steak for him. The paramedics were able to bring him all the way back to life, and he left on a stretcher with a pulse and breathing on his own. Oh man, this is long. Halfway done.
Halfway.
Here's where we get, this is my own interjection. Here's where we get to the part where I start to think about this story. I felt terrible about trying to do the airway sweep, but I was only doing what I was taught. Luckily, his mouth was too clenched for me to even get very far in there, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I did something wrong. Either way, the man is alive and well. It's amazing how a person's life is so much more important than anything else. I am totally trying to scrape together rent because the season has been so slow. I was on the floor and dealing with this for a good 45 minutes from the time it started till the time they wheeled him out. I completely left my whole section without any service and obviously didn't sat any tables for a while. But in that moment, none of that mattered because this man's life was at stake. Certainly no pun intended, as this was not a laughing matter. I was quite shook afterwards, and it took me a while to settle down and be able to focus again. So I didn't get sat at many tables because I needed to pull myself together. My boss's son bought the cardiac nurse's breakfast, no tip. Multiple.
Wait. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Or in parentheses, no tip, rolling eye emoji.
Right.
That surprised me because I was in the thick of it with her and she got her breakfast paid for, but whatever, it is what it is. I finally was able to calm down, and my boss's son sat me a lot of tables after the incident. He can tend to have somewhat of an ego, so I just assumed my efforts were going to go unnoticed and unappreciated, but to my surprise, I was wrong. After an hour later, I passed him and he said, "Good work today," and I felt proud in that moment. I may not have done everything exactly right, but I did my best and I learned a few things. The most important thing is a man's life was saved yesterday, but by a few strangers coming together to keep him alive until the paramedics arrived. Without intervention, that man would surely be dead.
Crazy.
We have a lot to unpack with this story as somebody who has been trained in first aid and CPR for more than half of my life.
Right.
People in the restaurant industry should be trained. Mm-hmm. People, there should be at least one person, preferably 4 people on every shift, depending on the size of the restaurant, that are trained in first aid and CPR, especially when you're serving food.
We have to be trained for food safe. Technically, there has to be one employee at a restaurant or bar at all times while open that is certified food safe training. Why wouldn't that be possibly the same for what you're saying too?
Right. I think it's wildly irresponsible to not have somebody trained. Mm-hmm.
Especially at a restaurant, right? Where things like
when
this
you're
can
serving
happen.
things like steak, things that are high choke risk. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a good thing this person had been trained at some point, and I think that's probably why they train people in high school.
Right.
At least they did when I went through. But, cool. A life was saved. That's awesome. Cool. Good story. Moral of the story is, 1, train your people to do first aid and CPR. It doesn't cost that much if you bring a trainer in. I mean, you could probably find somebody who's a trainer for another agency, and I don't know how much a certification costs, but it's worth it at the end of the day. Now let's talk about this server and their post commentary about how she was rolling her eyes at the fact that they didn't get a tip from the nurse who got their breakfast free, who also was doing their job.
Right.
Like, you didn't need to say that. You're the asshole now.
Right.
You didn't need to say that.
Yeah, things are tough everywhere. Like, it is what it is. But also, what if she didn't have cash and she only had a credit card?
And it was going to tip you on the credit card for her meal.
But now what is she supposed to do? Can you, like, some people don't think about, oh, can you just ring me up for like a coffee and then I'll tip on that? Like,
right. Also, she got her breakfast paid for because she did a good thing too.
Right.
Like, she did the good thing too.
Right.
She shouldn't have to tip you. Mm-hmm. She did the better thing.
Right.
I don't know. That little parenthetical really just chapped my ass. It rubbed me the wrong way. And you know what? Fuck you. Yeah, cool. You helped save a life, but you didn't do the compressions and you just identified that there was a problem, which is amazing. And you need to do that. I am not discounting that.
Right. And you were correct about needs to go on the floor.
Right.
Right. But then like
you counted and first things first, if you're certified in first aid and CPR, the first thing you do is say call 911 before you start saying anything else.
That's what I was thinking. Like, why wasn't the first thing out of anyone's mouth call 911?
Right. Again. I am not discounting that this person did a good thing.
Right.
They did everything that they could with the information that they had, and they did a great job. However, ungrateful.
Yeah.
And just like very me-centric.
Uh-huh. And like upset with the boss.
Did you update me that the dude was okay?
Right.
Like,
right.
And I understand this was yesterday and it was posted 3 hours ago, but like, man, everything about that story was fine until no tip, rolling eye emojis, 3 of them. Go fuck yourself.
Right. And if it was breakfast for even 2 people, I mean, I get it. If you're struggling, $8 for a tip is $8, right? Everything counts, but it's like just like
and I guarantee you, the tables that you had while sitting there that were waiting for you to help them saw what you were doing and probably tipped you more.
Mm-hmm. And then you even said it like, you never know, like you never put in perspective how a person's life is more important than anything else.
Right.
You say all that and then you backpedal into the statement of like, ugh, no tip. Like, she should have tipped me 100% because I identified that there was a problem and told somebody to call 911 and counted compressions.
Like, again, great, quick identification. I don't have a problem with any of the way the situation was handled. Obviously, you're working with outdated information, but a lot of people are because, again, people aren't trained anymore. And that just changed in the last few years. Mm-hmm. Like maybe 5. I don't know exactly. Don't quote me. But I remember it when it changed.
Right.
But it's like...
Yeah, I get it.
Get out of your own ass and just really... Mm-hmm. Half of that story about you not getting tables or you not being sat or then you getting extra sat and your bartender or your boss's son said you did a good job. Great. Awesome.
But also like they were almost upset that they weren't going to get any validation from anyone. Right. But then then the boss, like, why do you need a verbal confirmation?
Right.
The confirmation is the dude is alive going in the thing.
You don't need, and that's, I have a really hard time because I do work in a field that is kind of like, I don't have to save people's lives every day, but yeah, I kind of do. People tell me after I help a person with a seizure in public where, oh, you're just doing God's work. You're doing amazing. I don't want to hear that. Mm-hmm. Leave me alone.
Right.
Like I did my job and this person who the OP is so looking for acclaim and for that pat on the back, that good job. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't even fault the OP for saying that they were kicking themselves because they weren't sure if they were doing it right or they knew that they were doing things wrong. I do that in every situation I've ever been in that I've had to help save a life. Mm-hmm. The time that I had to save somebody in a pool that was drowning was the worst save I think that has ever been recorded in lifeguard history. But it's because the person kept actively trying to attack me. Well, they were trying to not attack me, but like,
struggle away from me. But it's still like,
I understand that. I understand worrying that you did things wrong and like needing to hear like, hey, you did what you needed to do and you did a good job in that respect.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like the first time you've been in a situation like this. But to not be financially validated by a table is just wild to me.
I mean, it happens. I mean, it's part of the serving bartending game. I mean, at the end of the day, you are playing roulette every time serving someone. Are they going to tip me?
Right.
Are they going to tip me good? Are they going to tip me well? And, you know, like, and I get it. Like it has been slow these past about 6 weeks than normal. I think there's a lot of things to attribute to that, but it is what it is. I mean, I get it. Yeah, it sucks that she turned that story into about me at the end of it.
Right. The whole story could have been like, dude left on a stretcher and I was a wreck for a while after, but my day picked back and I had to continue my day like it was not like nothing had happened. And we would have had a great story. We would have had no assholes in the story. Yep. Except for, I mean, and also the thought, like, maybe you should cut his steak for him. I mean, like, yeah. See that I understand that thought because that's a big bite. It
happens to me. Pork is my biggest thing is like, I need to cut up small, but I don't think about it. And then I've had times where we're eating lunch and just get stuck on like, I make like the most horrific sound in the world.
It's awful because it's like a vomiting, retching sound.
But hey, I can get it back up. Man, the other day I was sitting eating lunch here by myself. One got stuck really good. In my mind, like, I'm going to go out by myself here with the cats around me. Ugh.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it came up like, woo.
Well, as long as you're making noise, you're okay.
I know. But still, it's still terrifying.
Right. As long as a person is coughing, generally speaking, no intervention should be required. Just encourage them to keep coughing.
Yeah.
But man, it's wild. It's wild.
All right. So on a rating scale.
Man, I mean, I've been certified in first aid and CPR for 22 years now. And I have never had to use the Heimlich or do CPR. I don't want to put that into the universe. I don't want to put that into the universe to make me have to. So like, from those stats alone, considering I've worked with people with disabilities, with children actively trying to kill themselves, I've been a server and a bartender. I like all of the fields I've ever worked, retail, all of the fields I've ever worked on, I've never had to use it. Yeah. So I'd say that alone would get it a 4. Yeah. But I'm going to go with a 4.3 just for the insane amount of me-centric language at the end. I am so upset because like you actively just worked on saving a man's life and all like the moral of your story, the wrap up is what it did to you. Go fuck yourself. Right.
So I've never had anything like this happen in any years where someone needed like that serious medical condition, like, or medical attention, not condition, attention brought to them. Right. But one last couple of months, the night I met Ashley, a group were in there. They left, they came back. Ashley and this other younger kid were sitting at the bar drinking, and this group comes back in, and all of a sudden this woman just passes out. Like she puts her hand on the seat and kind of misses and hits the floor. They call an ambulance, and while they're waiting for the ambulance, like 3 people are trying to figure out what's going on. I'm just standing there because I'm one of those people like, yeah, I seen shit on fucking TV and movies, but I don't have like, it's not my training. Place to say anything what to do because I don't know what the right thing to do is.
Right. But you're willing to help if somebody yells at you to do something.
Right. Yeah. Right. I'll do that. I'll be the guy, like, I'll be the muscle. You just tell me what to do. Not the muscle with my crickets, but you know what I'm saying? So that's been the closest. They came back like a couple weeks later. One of them said, I think it wasn't like low blood sugar or something, but I don't know what it was, but yeah, you know, whatever. Cause she declined to go to the hospital. Right. Because it's her own choice. And
also if it's something like low blood sugar, she probably knows.
Right. So anyways, that's the only time anything like medically like that has happened in a scenario for me. So I'm really going to give this like a 4.6 just because like me personally, I've never had to been around anything like this before, except for myself.
Except for the time that we were in Minneapolis and that guy got mugged and he was bleeding everywhere and he almost passed out.
Yeah,
and that was wild.
Yeah, but that's different though.
See that, and that was my first aid training coming in, and I like. But yeah.
Yeah, that story's wild.
Injuries are different because I feel like those are more common, obviously.
And I think it's a little bit more common sense of how to handle something like that, you know? Maybe, I don't know. But like and choking and things like the pass, and I don't know. Because like, I don't know. So I'll give it a 4.6. All right. So my story is from the Bartender Memes Unfiltered. And this is really more of just an interesting, fun story. So, you know, there's going to be no like, should have been, there's no handle differently in this story. Right. This is just a fun, interesting story that I read.
Just a little levity after the heavy one. So
this is November 19th. So just a couple weeks ago. Pretty cool day at my bar. This young man on the right. Okay. So
there's a picture. There's
a picture. And if you follow us on YouTube, you'll see the picture now. I might post it on Instagram, but just look at the pictures. On the left, it's an older guy, probably in his 50s, 60s. And then on the right, younger kid, probably in his mid 20s, early 30s at the most. Pretty cool day at my bar. This young man on the right stopped in for a visit today. We met 3 years ago. We had just owned our bar a few weeks when this young man stopped in to charge his cell phone. I asked if he would like something to drink. He said he didn't have any money. He said he was just passing through town and his phone was dying. I said, no worries. I gave him a beverage. He was so thankful. I asked if he was hungry. He said, starving. I said, my wife is in the kitchen. Let me talk to her. She whipped up him a big burger and fries. A couple locals at the bar asked why we would feed him. I was like, he's clearly hungry and we are in a position to help him. I never forgot that day. So when he stopped in today to say thank you again, I was so happy. He was absolutely shocked when I remembered his name. I was like, your name is the name as my late son. Happy day. Always feel blessed when you can help a soul.
Aww.
Like how crazy, like, again, there's nothing to this story except for just another human being doing the right human being thing.
Right.
You know, like, it's just like, why would you feed him? Fucking guy's hungry. Like, it's not like he's trying to pull a scam on. If he's pulling a scam, it's like a very well thought out scam. But like, you can tell when someone's just like, I just want to charge my phone. People would come into the remote lounge, you know, that would never order a drink there. Just kind of just your outlet. Whatever, man. Like, hey, there's water right there. If you want a pop, I'll get you a pop, you know? Right. You know, like who gives a shit? And then just to remember his name, obviously it's easier to remember someone's name when it's your late son. But I think that's just a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
You know, obviously both of our stories, I didn't know what you were going to do. You didn't know I was going to do. Both stories helping someone out. Right. Because it was the right thing to do. Right. Your story just took a weird twist at that.
Yeah. Bill and Ted said, be excellent to each other. Right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. There you go. But no, I just thought it was kind of cool. I mean, it's nothing more to that story than that. So just, if you're in a position to help people out. Yeah. Just help them out. Like,
so I want to know, he came back and
3 years later to say thank you.
Oh.
Just to say, hey, thanks for letting me charge my phone and give me food or whatever.
Yeah, I want to read through all the comments and see. Because like, I want to know more about dude now. Like, he came in to say thanks. What's he doing now?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. But I just thought it was a fun little story just to share that. Like, there are cool people out there to find people. And even the kid, even though it took him 3 years, because again, you don't know why it took him 3 years.
Yeah, at least he was just passing through.
So maybe,
Where was he going? Where's through?
Right. So,
where's the destination?
Right. That's we can write a story about that.
Right.
Mystery guest 3 years passing, but I don't know. I thought it was just fun, you know, especially when you're in like the restaurant bar industry, little things like that. It doesn't cost much to make a burger. Like especially if your wife's making it, who's a co-owner, it's only going to cost you $6, $5 for the cost of the food. Right. Not her time, because you're not paying her. I mean, you know, you're not paying someone else an hour's wage. So I don't know. I just thought it was fun. And it definitely goes with your story, just on a different way. Yeah. So I don't even know, like, I don't really think there's a rating of this story.
I'm going to rate it a 5.
Yeah.
Because anytime somebody is just excellent to another person is a 5.
I agree.
With absolutely no ulterior motive.
Right. I agree. And he just posted the picture just to say, this is a cool moment.
Yeah.
Not to like say, I'm fucking awesome, or just say, here's a little backstory and this kind of happened. Here's cool. So just don't be a dick, tip your bartenders, and drink responsibly.